The pact before the cradle. They say life begins in the cradle, but the initiated know it begins long before. In the interval between lives, the soul gathers with others, like actors on a dark stage preparing for the next play. Roles are chosen. Scenes are sketched. Some souls agree to incarnate as companions of light, others as challengers, mirrors of shadow. It is in this invisible space that the forgotten pact takes place. Not a contract written on paper, but in energy. Not an imposed agreement, but a profound choice. The soul, in its wisdom, knows that only pain shapes compassion. Only conflict awakens courage. And so, entire families are chosen not for comfort, but for the promise of growth. Still, a question lingers like a restless echo. Why would we choose pain? Wouldn't it be natural to seek only sweetness, comfort, and ease? The answer is not simple. The soul does not think like the mind. It does not seek fleeting pleasure, but eternal expansion. And to expand, it needs contrasts. Life is like a vast mosaic of colors. Without shadow, there is no brilliance. Without night, the sunrise would lose its magic. And without pain, joy would not carry the same flavor. But there is more. By choosing difficult families, the soul plants a seed of transformation not only for itself, but for the entire lineage. As if to say, I will be the one who awakens, even if it means carrying the weight others refused. This awareness, however, is lost at the moment of birth. Crossing the veil of forgetfulness, the soul forgets the pacts, forgets it accepted the roles and the trials, and is born believing it is a victim of cruel chance. But what if it were not so? What if every tear, every absence, every wound were, in truth, part of a much greater plan? Imagine for a moment that your life is a stage. You stand at the center, illuminated by a beam of light. Behind the curtains, there are other actors: father, mother, siblings, grandparents. Some play villains, others protectors. Yet all follow the same secret script written before birth. This simple mental exercise, seeing your family as part of a play, opens a crack in the heart. From victim, you become author. From chance, you become choice. And what if your birth was not an accident, but part of a much older agreement? An agreement you yourself signed before your very first breath. The invisible inheritance. There are things we inherit without ever seeing. They don't fit in wills, they don't appear in documents. They are invisible, silent legacies, hidden in the bones, in the blood, in the way we react without thinking. Modern science calls this epigenetics. Emotional memories imprinted in the genes, passed down from generation to generation. What an ancestor once lived. A war, a loss, an abandonment can echo in you even if you've never heard the story. It is as if their scars still breathe beneath your skin. This is the echo in the blood. An inherited code not read in words, but in sensations. Fear without origin, sadness without explanation, impulses that don't seem to be yours. Every family carries a secret library, and every new child is born with chapters already written. But here lies the mystery. The soul, before birth, knows all of this. It chooses to dive into that lineage not by chance, but because those memories hold the portal to its expansion. It is not punishment, but opportunity. As if to say, it is in this family that I will find the keys I lack. It is in this blood that I will find the challenge that will transform me. Look closely at the stories running through your family. The silences no one dares to break. The pains repeated generation after generation. All of this is not only outside, it pulses within you. An absent father may carry the echo of a grandfather who was also absent. A controlling mother may reflect a grandmother who lived abandonment. And so, without realizing it, we repeat ancient choreographies as if tied to an invisible thread. But the soul does not incarnate to get lost in these cycles. It comes to remember that these threads can be cut, that chains can be broken, that echoes can become a new song. And here, the wound reveals itself as a key. What once seemed only suffering is, in truth, the map to where the soul longs to go. Pain shows where the portal is. Pain points to where transformation awaits. Take a notebook and write down what you know of your lineage. Stories of loss, of abandonment, of silence. It doesn't matter if it's a few lines or entire pages. Then, beside each pain, write one simple question. What does this still echo in me? This small gesture is a ritual of revelation. It is like lighting a candle in dark corridors of memory. Suddenly, you begin to see that what once seemed only pain may also be an invitation. But what if what you call a wound was, in truth, a hidden key, waiting only for the right moment to open the door? The mirror of shadows. The deepest wounds rarely come from strangers. Almost always, they are born in the place that should feel safest, the family. It is within familiar walls that shadows move with greatest force. A cold glance, a harsh word, a silence heavier than screams. These marks are etched into the soul like invisible tattoos. But why do the ones we love most sometimes seem to be the ones who hurt us most? Because the soul chooses these living mirrors. They reflect not only who they are, but who we need to become. This is the hidden reflection. The pain that comes from within the family is not just pain, it is a sign. As if each hard gesture were an arrow, pointing to the parts of us still asleep. A distant father may show us the need to learn to nurture ourselves. A demanding mother may teach us to break the chains of approval. A rival sibling may reveal the call to discover our own voice. These family shadows are not punishments. They are shadows that heal, if we have the courage to face them. Of course, the mind resists. It shouts, "I didn't deserve this." And truly, no child deserves the weight so many carry. Yet from the soul's perspective, even wounds hold a hidden purpose. The one who wounds, without realizing it, also delivers a hidden gift, the chance to awaken. It is like looking into a cracked mirror. You see yourself distorted, fragmented. But when you look closely, you notice each crack is a line of light. Each pain is an opening that allows you to see beyond. The question is not why this happened to you, but what it wants to reveal in you. The reflection of family shadows always points to the light we have not yet recognized. Try a simple exercise before the mirror. Look into your own eyes and silently ask, which shadow of my family still lives in me? Do not expect an immediate answer. Simply observe. You may notice a memory rising, an emotion surfacing, or even a resistance trying to turn your gaze away. This simple moment is a way of bringing the unconscious to the surface, of seeing that the shadow that once seemed external also lives within. And what if every harsh gesture, every cutting word, every painful absence were, in truth, a reminder of who you are meant to become? The game of invisible choices. Few dare to consider the idea. What if, before birth, each soul had chosen not only the body, but also the storyline of life? What if families, with their pains and imperfections, were not accidents of fate, but parts of an invisible game the soul itself agreed to play? The metaphor of the stage helps us understand. Imagine a great cosmic theater where every soul gathers before incarnation. There, a basic script exists, not of details, but of lessons. One chooses to be father, another mother, a third sibling. Some take on light roles, supportive ones. Others, heavy roles of confrontation. It is the rehearsal of a secret play. Each looks into the other's eyes, in deep silence, and accepts. I will be the one to challenge you. I will be the one to abandon you. I will be the one to give you the push you need to awaken. On the earthly stage, we forget it all. But in the invisible backstage, there was love. Love disguised as pain. Love hidden in hard roles. This is the paradox of existence. The hardest roles are often entrusted to the closest souls. Those who, beyond the veil, loved us enough to sacrifice themselves and take on the mask of villain. Of course, when we incarnate, this vanishes from memory. The mind sees only injustice, only feels rejection, only knows pain. But the soul keeps the secret. Everything is part of a greater game. A game of growth where nothing is ever fully lost and every trial hides an awakening. Pause for a moment and imagine your family as a theater troupe. See each person in costume, playing a role. And see yourself too, not only as an actor, but as part of the script. This simple act of imagining does not erase the pain, but it opens space for a new perspective. The vision of someone who is not only a victim, but also a co-author. This exercise is like putting on the soul's glasses. Suddenly, you realize the script was not against you, but for you. But what happens when we forget that we chose the script? What happens when we start believing only in the mask and not in the love hidden behind it? The test of inner resistance. There are families that seem to give us the opposite of what we dreamed of. Instead of comfort, coldness. Instead of encouragement, demands. Instead of freedom, restraints. And yet, it is precisely in this barren ground that the soul finds its deepest training. Because pain, when it does not break us, strengthens us. And absence, when it does not destroy us, teaches us to create within what was missing outside. It is as if each wound were an invisible weight placed in our hands. At first, far too heavy. But each day, as we carry it, something changes. The muscles of the soul begin to grow. Inner resistance begins to be born. Pain, then, ceases to be just a wound. It becomes refined strength. A difficult family life, instead of a prison, reveals itself as the soul's gym. Each harsh word is like a weight lifted. Each cold silence is like a run in the dark. Each absence is a call to become presence within yourself. This is the paradox many only understand after years. The greatest warriors were not born in fields of flowers, but in deserts. The most compassionate souls did not learn in an abundance of love, but in its lack. And the bravest hearts were not nourished in gentleness, but in trials. Still, there is an essential detail. Resistance is not merely enduring. Resistance is transforming. It is not enough to withstand the pains, they must be shaped into something new. The soul under trial is not the one that merely survives, but the one that chooses to be reborn with each blow. Try recalling a difficult moment from your childhood. Instead of reliving it as a victim, ask, what strength was born in me because of this? Perhaps it was independence. Perhaps sensitivity. Perhaps a courage you never recognized. This exercise is a simple way to rewrite the narrative. To look back and realize that even in deserts, something within you bloomed. And what if what once hurt you the most were, one day, to become your greatest medicine, not only for yourself, but for all those who cross your path? The hidden key in suffering. Every wound holds a secret. At first glance, all we see is pain, abandonment, rejection, demands. But when seen closely, through the eyes of the soul, each pain reveals something hidden, a key. It is paradoxical. The same suffering that seems to imprison us can also be the door that sets us free. It is as if life hid its greatest gifts inside the harshest wrappings. Loss creates space for compassion. Rejection awakens the search for authenticity. Excessive demands teach us to create boundaries and self-worth. This is the mystery of the soul, to suffer in order to awaken. Family pain is not just a scar to be hidden, it is a portal to spiritual gifts. The heart that was wounded learns to feel beyond the surface. The mind that was silenced discovers its voice. The being that was diminished finds the courage to expand. Many of those who now heal, inspire, and transform can do so only because they once walked through deserts. The healer is born from the wound. The wise one blooms from silence. The compassionate awakens from rejection. And each soul that chooses to look back and transform its pain into wisdom makes room not only for itself, but for all who will come after. The wound becomes a collective gift. Try a simple ritual. Take a blank sheet of paper. Write on it a painful memory from your family, one that still echoes in you. Then, beneath it, write, "What did this pain teach me?" Do not force the answer. Let it come slowly. Then fold the sheet. On one side will be the wound. On the other, the lesson. Hold it in your hands as if it were a talisman. This symbolic act transforms memory into key and pain into portal. And what if you had already carried that key even before birth, and your family was only the vault meant to hide it until you were ready to open it? The secret of repeated cycles. There are families where stories seem to repeat like endless echoes. Sons who become absent fathers, just as their fathers were. Daughters who lose themselves in abusive relationships, just as their mothers did. Entire generations carrying the same weight, as if an invisible script were being reenacted without end. This is the hidden cycle. It cannot be seen with the eyes, but it can be felt on the skin. It is the repetition that stretches across decades, even centuries, as if a silent chain tied each member of the lineage to the same fate. But there is always one soul that incarnates to break this chain. It is the one who feels the discomfort most intensely. The one who looks around and asks, "Why are we trapped in this?" The one who cannot accept repetition as normal. This soul is like the stone that interrupts the river, like lightning that tears through the night, like the different link in an ancient chain. It feels more pain because it carries more awareness. Yet it is precisely that awareness that can set the entire lineage free. The secret is that cycles do not repeat to punish. They repeat to be seen. And once they are seen, they can finally be dissolved. The soul that incarnates into a family of repetitions is not a victim, but chosen. And it also chose. It accepted to be the one who, by looking directly at the pain, opens the door many tried to ignore. Draw a simple line on paper. Place 3 points on it: grandparents, parents. Next to each point, write down one pain you recognize as shared. Then, circle your own name and write, "Here the cycle can end." This small act does not erase the entire inheritance, but it signals something to your awareness. You have the power to interrupt. You can transform invisible chains into wings. But how do you know deep down whether you are the one chosen to break this cycle, or whether you are still just repeating without realizing it? The call of the healer. There is an ancient archetype that runs through cultures and myths, the wounded healer. According to the legend of Chiron, the wise centaur of Greek mythology, The incurable wound he carried became his greatest source of wisdom. He could not heal himself, but through his pain he learned how to heal others. So it is with souls that choose painful families. What once broke them later transforms into what makes them guides. The one who knew abandonment can teach about presence. The one who lived rejection can offer acceptance. The one who suffered in silence can give voice to the unspeakable. This is the call of the healer. He is not born ready. First, he crawls through the darkness of his own pain. He feels lost, groundless, believing suffering to be a purposeless punishment. But little by little, as he looks within, he realizes something precious is hidden there. The soul then shifts from the role of victim to the role of guardian. It understands that what wounded it does not need to be repeated, that its wound can be transformed into medicine, not only for itself, but for everyone who crosses its path. This is a moment of catharsis, of tears that cleanse, of silences that become prayers, of wounds that shine like sacred scars. The wounded healer does not heal because he is perfect. He heals because he knows what it is to fall and rise again. He heals because he has walked through the dark corridors where many still wander. He heals because in his vulnerability, he discovered the strength that is born only when pain is accepted as teacher. Close your eyes and bring to mind a pain from your childhood. Then ask, who could be helped by what I lived? Perhaps it is someone suffering from loneliness. Perhaps someone struggling to feel worthy. Perhaps someone who only needs to hear that they are not alone. This simple exercise reveals how the wound can become mission. It is not necessary to be a therapist, a spiritual guide, or a master. Sometimes the simple act of sharing your story is enough to transform lives. But what happens when you finally accept that the pain had a purpose and that it was the secret call to your deepest mission? The return to origin. There comes a point in the journey when pain ceases to be the enemy. After so many falls, tears, and silences, something shifts. It is not that the wounds disappear, but they become windows. Suddenly, the soul realizes it was never a victim, it was always the architect. This is the moment of return to origin. Not the origin of pain, but the origin of consciousness. The remembrance that, before birth, there was already a plan, a purpose, a calling. The remembrance that nothing was by chance. It is like walking back through a labyrinth and, from above, seeing that every curve had meaning. That absence which once seemed unjust taught presence. That rejection which once seemed destructive revealed the strength of choosing oneself. That silence which once weighed like death became a living prayer. When this awareness awakens, something profound happens. The weight dissolves. Not because pain never existed, but because it finally finds meaning. And what once tasted like prison is revealed, at last, as portal. The invisible architects were always there. The soul, the ancestors, even those who wounded. All of them, in some way, were pieces on the same cosmic board. And every move, no matter how harsh it seemed, led to expansion. In that instant, the soul breathes with relief. It understands that nothing was in vain, that the thread of lineage was not only burden, but also inheritance of strength. That family was not an obstacle, but a stage. That life, even in shadows, was always an invitation to awaken. Take an old photograph of your family. Look at each face, even those that bring difficult memories. In silence, say, I am not only the effect of what you did. I am the continuity that transforms. This gesture does not erase the wounds, but it changes the position you take before them. From prisoner, you become liberator. From heir, you become creator. And what if your entire lineage had been waiting precisely for this awakening in you, as if your soul were the answer to the unspoken prayers of generations past? The gift hidden in pain. There comes a moment when the whole narrative transforms. Not because life becomes perfect, but because the soul finally sees the gift hidden behind pain. It is like opening an old box that has always been in the dark corner of a room, and as you brush away the layers of dust, discovering not remnants inside, but treasures. This gift is not material. It is a new way of seeing. It is the understanding that nothing was wasted, that every wound was a seed, that every absence was space for something new to bloom. The soul realizes, then, that the greatest legacy of family is not suffering, but the chance to transform it. It is the invitation to grow through pain, to become not only a survivor, but a creator of new paths. This is the turning point of transformation. Not an ending, but a beginning. Consciousness expands and, with it, life takes on another color. What once was remembered with resentment can now be seen with reverence. Not because it was fair, but because it was fertile. Not because it was light, but because it gave birth to wings. The soul understands it did not make a mistake, that it did not choose the wrong family, that it was not thrown into randomness. It knew. It always knew. And this knowing changes everything, because suddenly you are not only the fruit of your family, you are the point where the story changes direction. You are the continuity that chooses to write a new chapter. You are the living answer to the silence of generations. You are the gift hidden inside pain itself. And when this is understood, a deep relief floods the heart. It is not about romanticizing pain, but recognizing it as catalyst. About honoring yourself for having walked through it. About thanking the soul for choosing this path. The final message is clear: your soul never erred. It always knew that, by choosing a difficult family, it was choosing the fertile ground where your greatness would bloom. And now, before this awareness, the invitation is simple and profound. To transform the legacy received into expansion. To transform chains into wings. To transform silence into voice. To transform absence into presence. To transform pain into love. Your soul did not err. It knew. The family you received is the portal that can set you free, and all who come after. The key was always within. And today, as you look back, you can choose not only to survive the story, but to rewrite it in light. The cycle closes here, but it also opens within you. Because now, when you look at your own family, you already know there is not only pain in what was inherited, there is also the opportunity to grow, to liberate, and to transform. And that gift is what your soul has been seeking since before its very first breath.